it's time to bet on yourself. If there was ever a time to go all in on the thing that you love, the thing that you're obsessed with, the thing that you've been saying you were going to do and putting off for a million years, this is the time. I mean, look around you, friend. Times, they are changing. I don't know about you, but what was prescribed to me was that you did well in high school, you got good grades, you went to a good college, you got good grades, you got an internship, you found a job, and you stay there for 10 to 15 years, you climb the ladder. Or I would even say in my generation, like, people will go to the job, they climb the ladder to as far as they could go, they take that knowledge and information, move to another company, and get more pay and continue to do that until they found themselves in the position they wanted, the C-suite, leadership, whatever. That's not a reality for us anymore. It's just not a reality. Seeking stability in these outside entities and structures and foundations and people and organizations, fill in the blank, I don't know. It's not the wave, the vibe. It's not the story anymore. It's not. We're seeing these companies and industries that have employed hundreds of people, have been a lifeline for so many talented folks, crumbling, letting people go, automating positions, utilizing AI. It's just these structures that we found our sense of security and stability in are crumbling right before our eyes. And this reminds me so much of like a lot that's being talked about in the human design community. I'm not a human design expert. I'm an enthusiast. I don't know all the right terminology and things that I'm going to say. So I'm going to paraphrase what I've taken in and how it's registered in my mind. But essentially, the collective as we know it is coming from a reality where we relied very heavily on structures, organizations, government organizations, corporations, things of that nature to fund our lifestyle, to create stability, security, looking to those things as an extension of our identity, right? The school that you went to, the job that you have, the title that you have, the salary that you make, the area that you live in, all of those things being an extension of who we are. That's been very prevalent. And relying more on the systems, structures, and organizations that are in place than in ourselves. What do you want to do when you're hungry? You go to a restaurant, you go to the grocery store, right? What do you want to do if you need to make a living? You get a job, right? And you prepare yourself with the knowledge, the skills, and the resources to get that. That is no longer, from my perspective, and also from what I'm taking in from the knowledge of human design and how our collective is moving forward, that's not going to be reality of the future. We're moving from these pillars and these structures in our lives being like the end all be all and all that we know, right? The traditional trajectory, the traditional way of being, going to school, getting a job, doing that job for a million years, retiring, rinse and repeat for the future generations. Now it's looking like there's a lot more individualism within the community. Not the community will not be necessary, but now as an individual, you need to, I believe, show up with things to contribute to the community. As an individual, you need to know and learn how to be a sovereign being, how to take care of yourself, how to provide for yourself, how to use your skills and your talents and your gifts to create a life for yourself that isn't reliant on showing up to somebody's job because it's safe and because it's comfortable. And I think a lot of us are realizing that in real time. Once upon a time, they tell you, the real runway you need to get a new job is about 3 to 4 months, right? In a tough situation. You want to change jobs, you left your job, you need a job. In 3 months of yesteryear, you could get a new job. No problem. Similar pay, similar industry, maybe better pay. Now, people have been out of work for 6 months, a year and a half. I worked a contract role that was in alignment. The contract ended, we parted ways. It took a year sabbatical. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to come back to what I always knew to be true. a work environment that's going to have ample opportunity. Because I did something similar during the pandemic. I took a year sabbatical and I came back and I had job offers after job offer after job offer. That was not the case. After my year sabbatical, I want to say it took me 8 months to find a job. That is not in my industry. That is not my skill set. But listen, I'm not above it. That's just my mentality. I went from, very transparently, a 6-figure job to a $20 an hour job. You know, by the grace of God, I have savings. By the grace of God, I have very supportive family. And by the grace of God, I have a very supportive partner. But I cannot imagine being somebody who doesn't have those things in place and is coming from a very lucrative, financially stable opportunity to something that is a fraction of that. It was a very humbling experience for me, for sure, but I like that because it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me realizing that nothing in life is concrete besides death. Not to be morbid, but nothing is guaranteed, right? We're ever evolving, things are always changing, and security and stability is gonna look different, sometimes day to day, year to year, decade to decade, right? And I think what I realized through my own journey is that now is the time to have a backup plan for the backup plan. Now is the time to say, you know, once upon a time, yeah, maybe you could rely on that 9 to 5 as a sense of stability and consistency. It's pushed me to now recognize what that would look like if that wasn't a factor. What if a 9 to 5 was like one of the rarest things you could find? What if that sense of security and stability was like so super rare that only select few had that opportunity? What would I do then? What would I do then? You know, I'm grateful that I have a job that pays my bills and allows me to get health insurance, because that's a whole other can of worms in this country, getting health insurance outside of a 9 to 5, the expenses, the type of amenities that are granted to you, like the type of insurance you get when you work for a company versus the type of insurance you get from the marketplace are completely different, in my opinion, and I've done it several times, so I know from my lived experience it's not the same, and it's not as great. And just to be able to have a job, to have that, is a blessing for me. But to recognize that there's a very real reality, I feel like, coming on the horizon where people are not going to be able to lean on these 9 to 5s like they used to. It's not a guarantee. It's not a secure bet. And so if that is true, I don't think it's something that's happening tomorrow, like we're going to wake up and it's just going to be annihilated. But I think that the reality we're seeing right now is not just like a blip in time, in my opinion. I feel like this is the wave of the future. And I lean on things like human design, and that, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's not everybody's cup of tea. You can just kind of look at where the world's going, where everything's being automated. AI is the new hot thing right now. People's jobs are being eliminated. People are finding difficulty finding new jobs. There's a lot of rigidness now in the workplace. We once had this flexibility of hybrid schedules and work from home, and now there are these mandates for everyone to go back into work 5 days a week. So to me, there are trends there. In addition to that, I believe those structures that we know, that we supported, that we felt supported by, are crumbling. And some of them will crumble and completely go away, in my opinion, and others of them will crumble to allow us to create a better foundation in its place. With that being said, I feel like there's going to be an emphasis on all of us as a collective to look at ourselves individually first and say, what do I have to contribute to the greater collective, the greater whole, and what do I have to utilize for myself, to take care of myself, to make a living, to make sure that I'm good, so that if I'm ever faced with a situation where I have to have my back and I have to stand 10 toes down, can I do that? Do I have skills? Do I have things to offer? And it's not to scare anyone, and I'm really speaking to myself when I say this. Every time I make these videos, if they resonate, I'm so happy, but I'm really talking to me and saying it out loud for me, because I think I really need to hear this. Like, do you have the skills? Do you feel confident in the skills that you have? Do you feel confident in yourself? Because a lot of times it's not that the skills aren't there, it's that there's a lack of confidence. There's a lack of value in who you are and what you have to bring to the table. And that's really where the reframe needs to happen. Like, do you see yourself? It's really hard to see yourself for a lot of us, for a million reasons. I'll start with myself. You have these skills and these gifts, right? I have these skills and these gifts, and I've been told my whole life that they're not valuable. That's not what's valuable. What's valuable is being the left brain person, being the analytical person, being the person who knows the numbers, being the person who can do trend analysis, being the person who can forecast, being the person who can work a P&L, being the person who is numbers driven and structured and is a go-getter and who is aggressive and who is a type A personality and who gets shit done. That's the personality. If you don't fit that mold, you are not valuable. And this is the story that I heard that was reflected to me, that I internalized and made my own truth. So now I'm in a place where I have to distill that, take the lessons from that, and say, is that really my truth? Do I really believe that about myself? Is that even me talking? Or is that somebody else? Somebody else's story, somebody else's projection being put on me, that has now taken root in my life and prevented me from showing up as my most authentic self and honoring the gifts that I have. What am I interested in? What am I passionate about? What do people come to me about? And sometimes you think it's so small, but it's actually so big in somebody else's world. I was on a call. I'm part of this like entrepreneur community called Guided. Beautiful. Predominantly women. I think it's all women, actually. Doesn't even matter, neither here nor there. And we did like a call that was called Activated, and it was just getting that fire under you to really go after the things that are on your spirit and on your heart, to bring out into the world. And I got matched with somebody in a break room, and we were talking, and the person was talking about their writing. And they came from a social media world, content creation, where everything is super curated and perfect and aesthetic. And the writing was completely contradictory of that. And it was raw and it was unfiltered and it was channeled and it was beautiful and it was messy and it was all these things. And she was like, I don't think anybody's going to care about that. I don't think anybody wants to see that in the world. And I was like, why? Why do you feel that way? Do you feel that, your current path that you're on has maybe narrowed your scope and your lens on what others want? Are you afraid of how you'll be perceived, especially coming from a world that is very much about aesthetics and perfection? How can you make this assumption that no one's going to care if you've never even tried to see if they would? And even if you put it out there and only one person reads it, do you feel like that will be impactful? So asking those questions, I saw the light bulb go off. And to me, that's not a gift, right? I'm just talking. I'm just asking questions. To her, that was a gift. It was a gift. It helped her. It set something ablaze in her. A light bulb, a switch, something that made her go, oh, wait. Now that I think about it, this sparks this idea and this idea and this idea. That is a gift. That is a skill. Not everybody has that skill, or they do and they present it differently, but I have it and it's unique to me and it's impactful to other people and it's special and it's important, and there's something that I can take there and give to the community and connect with and create abundance from. But if you asked me outside of that situation, if I thought that was a gift, I would have laughed and been like, who cares? Just asking questions. No, the ability to reflect and hold space and mirror and ask the right kinds of questions and see people at their core is a gift. But I downplay it because I don't think it is one. And that's really the unearthing that I feel like is going to happen for a lot of us. To look at the things that we have brushed off as being invaluable and waste of time and not that special, and doing a reframe. I was listening to a podcast the other day called Love, Human, Be Spirit, hosted by one of my very dear friends, Monique. And she had a guest on, Vanessa Henry, huge in the human design world, amazing in the variable space, amongst other things, who has a really empowering story just the life, the experiences, just beyond words. And something that really stood out to me is that this message of a lot of the things that we live through build skills within us that are meant to be shared, that we can then take and help others, either from a soul's work purpose, right? Not something that we necessarily want to exchange for money, exchange for currency, for abundance, but just something that we've lived through, been able to triumph over, and are able to take what we've learned and share those gifts with other people just out of the passion of our soul. Or we've lived through, we've triumphed through, we've gained skills to help us navigate this world, and then we can then share those skills with other people to help them, and we can ask for an energetic exchange in return, like money, for example. And that a lot of times those things get overlooked. So it's just so much to unpack and reframe and look at the wealth of things that we have. Because I think for me, I thought I had to go back to school. I didn't think I was that smart. I didn't think I had a lot to offer. I didn't think I was special or had any gifts. And the message that I keep feeling is like, you have it all within you. Every single thing is within you, but you got to get quiet enough and observant enough and reflective enough and honest enough, and you got to pull off the layers of the onions that these masks that were given to you that were never yours to take, so that you can really see it. For some of us, it's sitting with God, it's sitting in prayer, it's sitting in meditation, it's going on walks. For others of us, it's tapping into our inner child and remembering the core essence of who we are, so we can show up in that way authentically. For others, it's being in community so that other people can shine that light back and mirror back to us exactly what they're seeing that we're missing and overlooking. There's so many ways. For others, it's journaling, it's voice noting. Essentially, it's getting to that bit of clarity so that you can emerge on the other side confident. All right, that's all I got. Until next time, I love you so, so much. And if no one ever told you today or in a while, you're special, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you are worthy. We need you. All the gifts, everything that's within you, we need that. We need that now more than ever. Find a way to turn that lighthouse on so we can find you, so we can affirm to you just how important you are. Love you. Love you for watching. Until next time.